Hey everybody, this is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. I am making a video for a machine I just got, and this is sort of this is on the beginning end of some of my video series. As you all know, when I've got a machine completed and it's getting ready to be listed, I have what I call a debut series video, which is simply, hey, it's time to show off the machine. She's been totally reconditioned, restored, and ready for a new life of service. But some time ago, I started showing videos of when I first get machines so that you guys can kind of get a feel for what it's like. Maybe you're interested in going out and finding a vintage machine, and maybe you want to do some restoration work, or you're going to have someone do it, or maybe you just want a strong machine, whether you're an experienced sewer or you've never sewn. I wanted to kind of show you guys this. This is a Singer 99. Or more specifically, the 99K, which means it was made in the Kilbowie, Scotland factory that Singer had once upon a time. And it says actually right here, made in Great Britain. Now, I wanted to show you guys this also because let's say you go and you're coming across a machine. Maybe you're at a thrift store, or you're at a yard sale. It's, we're getting into winter now, but you don't see too many of those. But or maybe you see it, where else would you see these? You see them occasionally online. You might see them on Craigslist or Kijiji. And sometimes people just say, hey, sewing machine for sale, don't know what it's worth, or maybe they have a price. And you're trying to be a smart consumer because A, you don't know if it runs. The seller might say, well, it ran the last time it was used. But of course, you don't know how long ago that was. And let's assume they're being honest with you. They really just don't know, right? It might not even be their machine. It might belong to a relative. So you get a machine, and as soon as you go to touch it, this falls off. This was, when I got this machine, this was standing, it was actually in the place where the spool pin normally goes on a 99. But of course, the 99 didn't come with a plastic spool pin. This is looks like the remnants of a very, very thin, well, it's not really a felt washer. It's like somebody tried to make one out of fabric. Not a bad attempt, actually. But anyway, you look at that and you think, well, shoot, maybe should I get this or not? And maybe you notice over here, maybe the bobbin tire is a little old. I haven't looked that closely at this one yet, but it could be. And, it might be dry rotted or cracked. That can happen quite a bit. And let's see. One thing you can notice, and I've got some sort of good lighting today, you can really see this, is, there's a lot of dust on it, right? And some people assume that dust and dirt may mean that the machine is in bad shape, and that's not necessarily true. Very often, these machines are what I like to call dormant, meaning they've sat for a while. How do you know? Well, one thing you can do is I'm reaching over here to touch the hand wheel, and when I turn it, you'll notice that the take-up lever is moving, and I think here it goes. The clutch knob needed adjusting. You guys can see that the needle here, this is the old needle, is moving, but it's very stiff. That tells me that it's been sitting for a long time. It does not mean that it's broken, okay? Your machine might have something broken on it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's broken. Here's another way to kind of test. You can tell, for example, here is a thumb screw that attaches the presser foot, right? This is a straight stitch foot. And when I turn it left to loosen it, even though it's got that nice textured surface, I can't turn it by fingers. It's very stiff. And as I've mentioned to many of you at different times, there's ways to loosen this. You don't want to force it. What you need to do is, I think I've talked about that in some other videos. You can use sewing machine oil or even penetrant. Let it sit overnight or a couple of days. You can even put a hair dryer on it as long as you don't get that near the paint. And usually it will come loose. In fact, this one actually has a place for a screwdriver. Point being, you can tell that the machine has been sitting a while. You think, oh man, maybe this won't work. It's been sitting for years and without use. But look here, let's zoom in and I'll show you, if I can get the zoomer to work. The decals are in incredible shape. I mean, look at them. They're not scratched, they're not broken. And if they are, that's okay. I get machines all the time where the decals are not perfect. But it's all right because these machines are wonderful workers. And I'm not really focused on collecting as much as I want the machines that I overhaul to have new lives working as sewing machines. That's what they were designed to do. But my point here is to say, hey, just because a machine's dirty, don't assume that it's in bad shape. And just to give you another, I noticed that the little slide door on the bobbin compartment was stiff, right? Well, we can take care of that. All we have to do is clean it and lubricate it. So let's zoom in, and I'm going to show you guys. Whoops, sorry. When I press on the little lever that lets the bobbin out, someone was using a plastic bobbin, and I'll be replacing that with a vintage metal bobbin. What else? I wanted you guys to see something else that I've noticed on this particular machine, and it's very unusual. Let's see if I can. I'm going to have to manually zoom in here. I really want it to show up for you all. Sorry about the shaking there, but here we go. Okay. Look here, guys. I don't know if you can see this, but that is the red felt that I almost always have to replace. But this one has it. So either it has been replaced or it may be the original. It's possible the machine never got a lot of use in its life. That can happen sometimes. I know it seems odd that people would have paid so much for something and then not used it, but not everyone wanted to sew. And so, or maybe they got the machine and they didn't like it. They went back to using their grandmother's or whatever. But this is really incredible. And like I say, it was not exposed to light. And so it wouldn't have been faded necessarily. But normally I almost always have to replace these, right? And if yours doesn't have this, you can put a drop of oil on it and you can still lubricate the bobbin case and the race. But I just thought that was interesting. Again, another sign that the machine is not necessarily worn out, right? It just needs to be woken up, if you will. So I will be disassembling this machine and taking the parts out. I'll be cleaning them, removing a lot of the old oil. And then, of course, we'll be going underneath, of course, to clean and lubricate. And just as a reminder for all of you, a lot of people forget or don't know that the 99, the 66, and the 185 all have this really strong, heavy-duty drivetrain underneath. But notice it sits lower than the support legs of the machine. All of them came that way. And so these machines need to be either put into a carry case or into a table. Now, you guys have heard me talk about Singer sewing tables, and I've told you that they are the most common tables you will ever find because so many of them were made, and Singer was such a big brand. What is less common, and I'm not going to call this rare because I really don't think it's rare, but what's less common is a table that is cut out, that was made to fit the Singer 99 or the 185K, or the 185J, and that's less common. Again, if you see one, it doesn't mean you have to pay tons and tons of money for it. They're not super rare. But most of these machines were sold in handled, they look like little suitcases, and they were carrying cases because these machines they're less wide than the 66, but they have the same power. And while they weigh more than a Singer Featherweight considerably, they were still marketed as portable machines. Not all of you would consider them portable, but compared to some of the other machines, I think they are. And just to let you know, if you're looking at one of these and you think, oh, wow, well, how much is this going to cost? Am I going to have to get parts? I have not tested the motor for this one, but right now, the motor, I can't really tell until I turn it on, but I can show you some other things that may be helpful when you're trying to look at this and think, gosh, how much is this thing going to need parts or what's it going to need to get it sewing so you can work on your projects? Well, you can get, these are called tapping style spool pins. They may fit other machines, but they are slightly tapered. You can see that on the right end of this. And all I have to do is put that in the place where that plastic one was, and I'll tap it with a rubber mallet, and all of a sudden I now have an appropriate spool pin for a Singer 99. This is 89 cents, okay? Not much of an investment. And I'll actually save the plastic one that was there by mistake because there are Singer machines that came later that use those. And I have a felt washer, and these come 59 cents for a pair. So what is that, 30 cents? Woo! So now I've got $1.20 in this so far. Let's see, the vintage bobbins I have, but you can get them online inexpensively. And when I go to test the motor, I'll also test the light, but I also have spare light bulbs. Those are a couple of dollars, just a couple of dollars. You can get LED versions if you want. And then the belt, I took the belt off and I'll be inspecting it more. What you want to look at is not so much the color, but you want to check the belts to make sure they're not dry rotted. This one I'll be inspecting, but let's assume that you get one and the belt is dry rotted, because that happens a lot of times. $8.99 for less than $15. I can get everything I need, assuming my motor works, and they almost always do, but you never know. You have to check each one because motors can sometimes either need overhauling or replacement. But my point here is that, let's say, think about whatever you would give for this machine, right? And it varies, depends on what you think it's worth, what someone wants to sell it for, are they wanting to get rid of it, whether it's in a table or not. Look at the machine and just, like I say, in part because this is a Singer, the parts for these machines there are many companies that reproduce parts. So if you can't get a vintage part, and you almost always can, you can certainly get reproduction. This is a reproduction steel pin for a Singer. So any of you who are maybe afraid of getting a machine and you can't get parts for it, almost every Singer I've ever come across, it's not a problem. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy working on them so much, in addition to the fact that they make pretty incredible machines. So anyway, that's it, guys. Just wanted to show you, don't be afraid of dust. Take a look at the machine, and if it's stiff, there's a way to get it moving again. And if when I get this machine ready, I will be making its debut video, and you guys will get to see it run. But anyway, thanks for watching, folks. I just wanted to talk a little bit about concerns people might have in terms of what is it going to cost to restore or recondition a vintage sewing machine like this one. And I have not vacuumed this off. What I do is nowadays I take the vacuum cleaner to get most of the dust off, and then I'll wipe it down. Based on what I can see now, I anticipate that the paint finish on this machine is pretty beautiful. It's just covered in dust and waiting for some attention that it obviously deserves. Thanks for watching, everybody.